past you has saved this for you, using a choice junction graph to represent every potential you that will ever exist. When it comes to money, things are fundamentally very easy. For every unit of time, you have a certain budget. This budget is based on the cash flow you receive in the same unit of time. For example, if your only source of income is your wage, then in the time unit of a single month, you have your budget, you have your wage as a budget, and you cannot spend more in a month than the maximum amount capped by your wage. Very easy. If you now spend less than your cash flow provides you with for a certain unit of time, then you actively are saving money and therefore are giving away all future versions of you more budget. You are giving all future versions of you more budget, effectively turning your own saved money into a potential future cash flow. Whenever you decide to use this money saved by past you activate this cash flow. Things would stop here unless you can borrow and invest money. Because then things change. The investing part stays pretty much the same, with the exception you not only can use the money you saved in the past once you are in the present, but you also can let this money work for you, and therefore, on average, grow. But on the other side, you now also can borrow money from other parties, with other parties being other people or people in disguised as institutions like banks or companies. Borrowing money allows the present you to spend more than the maximum budget without the necessity for past you to have saved this money for present you. And I don't want to spoil it, but this is where things start to go wrong. Not only in terms of money. In the savings scenario, if present you saves up money for future you, then present you is actively living below its means. This is a positive habit. Living below your means and therefore actively doing something to improve the lives of all versions of you that will exist in the future. The neutral habit would be to neither save money nor borrow money. And the negative habit to either use up your own or other people's saved up money. Of course, using other people's money again is worse than using the money past you saved for you. Something everyone wants to hear, but we want to keep things easy and simple, and therefore not involve a third party being other people, but instead simplified, just use the 3 temporal versions of you already mentioned. Now the thing is this: there is no neutral, and effectively the only you that will ever exist is the present you. But we also want to not get into discussing this part of the assumption, but concentrate on the absence of a neutral spending habit. It's similar to many other things in life. There is no neutral. There is no status quo. There only is progress, progressing and regressing. Change simply isn't measured in absolute values. But change is a rate. Just like your monthly cash flow is a value per unit of time, change also is. And therefore, whenever we deviate from the version of ourselves that existed up to this point in any way, we already change. Whether this is a positive or negative, change often isn't clear at this point in time. But when it comes to spending habits, it's pretty clear. Once you regress only the slightest bit from the positive habit of actively living below your means and therefore saving the money that's left from the budget minus spent money calculation, you actively get worse. Consider this. Your future life is a graph consisting of an almost infinite number of junctions, with every junction being a decision you made or will make in the future. At the end of all these dendrites are the versions of you that died and lived your life, with having died being the only end to the theoretically infinite junctions being created by time and your choices. This mental picture we now created makes something very easy. Judging whether something we do is positive or negative. Just ask yourself the question of Pareto optimality. Does it make all potential versions better or worse? you whenever you don't know how to go on. And if you find an immediate answer to this question, then you just got a very easy guideline to all decisions in life you made. Why is this so easy? Because it connects the two things we usually find very hard to connect. The small incremental decision or action we take right now in this single moment, and the bigger picture of the rest of your life. For example, I just add in an example here. If you only save one more penny this second, then all the future versions of you that don't have this penny will cease to exist, and all the other versions of potential future use will therefore still be able to exist. But if you only make a single penny more, a single dollar more, a single euro more, then all of the future versions of you will have this dollar. And the other ones will not, because the other ones won't ever exist. Think of it like this. All potential versions of you that benefit from your decision are the dendrites going up. All the other ones are the ones that graphically move down. So here is a small picture, with every junction being just a point, and there are two lines, one up and one down, and then there is of course the next point, and there is one line moving up and one moving down, representing every decision you can make, of course simplified into a two-dimensional decision. This makes it even easier to decide. The thing you need to understand is this: with every decision you make, all the potential versions of yourself, and therefore all the potential pathways through this graph till the end, get cut off. Also, we simplify every decision into a two-dimensional one, a decision with only two options. This now makes the following possible, asking yourself whether you move up or down. Moving up equals a positive rate of change, and moving down a negative rate of change. The neutral decision is already eliminated by the design of this graph, with the two options only pointing up or down, as well as life, even if often the outcome of a decision at this point in time is pretty unpredictable. This doesn't mean it's neutral, because neutral is an ideal. Neutral is a rate of change that is exactly 0.000000000 with an infinite number of zeros attached. Now, let's actually try to apply this model we created. When it comes to money, we now can say this. Using the first mathematical deviation, we only have these three options: positive change, negative change, or no change. With no change also here only being an ideal. If you now save up to 20% of your income each and every month, then saving 20% of your income is the positive habit. It's called saving. Therefore, if you now consider upping your rate of saving, then you simply now have to ask yourself this: up or down? Do you think all the upper or all the lower potential versions of yourself will be cut off by deciding to up your savings rate? Usually, the answer would be up, but there indeed also can be cases in which you effectively move down, because you thought too short-term. For example, you want to think systemic. Also long-term, meaning you should try to include as many important variables as possible, also your own psychology, for example, and prefer the consistent slow growth, aka a positive rate of change, over the risk of one single negative change, maybe caused by yourself upping your savings rate too much, and therefore having to cut it down again, which isn't even a neutral change, but a negative one. Not only a negative one in absolute values, but also in terms of relative ones. For one, the savings rate already being a rate, and for two, with the current savings rate also being a value with its own derivative. Therefore, if you keep the same savings rate, then you actually are already changing something positively, provided you also manage to up the base and therefore increasing your absolute value of money coming out of your savings equation. 2,000 per month times 20% savings rate is more than 1,000 per month times 20% savings rate. But let's try to expand this idea even more. Every single decision you make effectively makes the life of all your potential versions of you better or worse, and eliminates eliminates all the versions of you that would have existed. Yeah. You better or worse. For better or worse, basically. Or to be more precise, every single decision kills off half the potential versions, and you decide if all the remaining potential versions are the better or the worse set of potential versions of you. Think of it like this. All the future versions of you already exist, and you now have the chance to select the ones you like the best by deciding what you think is best. Because let's face it, that's the only thing you can do anyway.